parkour thrives or dies.
And if my inability to sell a membership
and contacting them is not calling them once, we suffer from undervaluing our businesses.
A 100% trial conversion.
Welcome back, parkour business owners. It's me, Jimmy Davidson with Motion Mentors, and I'm joined today by Scotty Lytle at Fate Movement in Indianapolis, Indiana. Scotty, welcome to the call.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Scotty is a parkour gym owner. He took over the business from a previous owner. Scotty, do I have that right? You took over an old gym named Base Movement. Was that right?
Kind of, yeah. It was Base Fitness Parkour, which was a gym in Fisher. So that was a community that I was a part of, and it's where I learned a lot of what I know, how to coach, kind of where I started. And they'd closed down, and so I kind of took over the community and just kind of was doing some outdoor, lightly guided training sessions for a year or two, and then eventually started Fate and kind of ran with the community there.
Okay, so they shut down, moved out of town, and you acquired a lot of their equipment, a lot of their clients, opened up your own spot, and then that begins your journey as a parkour CEO. What year was that?
They shut down 2021, I believe. I think it was 2021. Kind of right after COVID era. We opened back up after COVID, and then they were just like, you know what, we want to travel the world. So that's what they did.
Okay, so This podcast is about you reached out to us at Motion Mentors. We worked together, and then, things happened to your business.
Right.
Before we jump into that, give us an idea of a snapshot of your business before you reached out to me and Christopher at Motion Mentors.
Yeah. So we, like I said, we were outside doing lightly guided training sessions, and then finally started the LLC, and then started doing charged training sessions outside and doing actual classes. And then I had gone to an Art of Retreat, pretty much right after that. And that's where I had met you originally, and then met a few other business owners that all were like, hey, you need to raise your prices. So that was the first impact that was had on me. I kind of got bullied into raising my prices. And looking back now, if I wouldn't have raised my prices then, game over. There's no way we would have been able to do what we've done and stayed open. So that was kind of the first interaction that I had with the business world. And so then we came back, did that along with opening our indoor gym space. And then we just had a small kind of community, again, probably around, I think we were at 10, 15 people maybe that were coming to classes and doing that. And then just slowly growing, if we could get one, maybe two signups organically, that was really good. And we had really, really low costs overall, just because it was literally the lease space, insurance, and that was pretty much it. I wasn't paying myself anything. I didn't have any coaches that I was paying anything. It was just kind of self-sustaining and just yay, we're having fun and kind of doing stuff, but there wasn't really any growth. So that's kind of where we were at before contacting you. I'd reached out to a few other business owners and stuff like that, and they'd help implement some things, and which made some pretty big impacts overall. But still, it was just kind of this, okay, we're kind of making it overall better, but there wasn't a makeover necessarily or anything that really skyrocketed us until, kind of went with Motion Mentors.
Yeah. Okay. So you reached a level, you were coasting, and I totally remember having that conversation with you at Art of Retreat, which, listener, if you don't know, Art of Retreat is a in-person get-together of some entrepreneurs, some athletes, some coaches, and it's a parkour community enrichment event. It's very fun. Go do that. It's on that note, Scotty, you coming to the parkour industry conference, PK IndyCon, this year?
I am. I will be there. Awesome. I was kind of bummed that it wasn't an PK IndyCon. Come on, Indiana.
Yeah. Great. Well, I'm glad we'll see you there. PK IndyCon focuses specifically on the parkour industry. So the business side, the how can we make this work as a model side of things. So see you there. Anyway, so that's AOR if anyone hadn't heard of that one before. And at AOR, yeah, I remember sitting around the table with Scotty and a couple of my other folks in my business. And Scotty said he was charging like $6 or something ridiculous for parkour sessions. And we were just like ripping our hair out. We're like, dude, you have to charge more. And this was like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you were open but resistant. A little fearful. It's just because it was new, you know?
Yeah. And to put it into perspective, Base had always charged like basically $10 to $20 a lesson. So we were doing $20 for 2 hours of parkour. So basically a $10 hour class. So yeah,
it was too. So you said it hadn't raised it, you would have gone out of business. What is your business?
We switched it to $25 for the hour. So went from basically $20 2 hours to extrapolate that $50 for the 2 hours. But basically made all of our classes an hour. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then switched that to a $25 drop-in rate at the time.
All right. We have a 5X coming here from 25. Okay, great. So what was the thing, if there was a thing, that finally sparked you into going to motionmentors.org, booking that call, and starting this process?
Yeah, so I had originally known that Swift and Seth Ruggi was kind of working with you, and he had mentioned that to me before you guys had even started, and I was like, oh, it sounds like a good idea. And so kind of was just like in the shadows watching to kind of see how that went, and that seemed to go really, really well for them. And then saw you guys doing it with like 1 or 2 other gyms. And then we actually got another time to connect both at the next Art of Retreat, and then also at in Cincy, the business conference. So we just had a little bit more time to connect and talk a little bit more. I got to know you a little bit more, which really made me feel a little bit more comfortable, and was like, all right, let's kind of get in the call and talk. So that's kind of what kind of made me make the jump. On the personal end, on the business end, I just seen the success that was happening in other businesses, and was like, yeah, I think I'd like that for my business.
Cool. All right. So you saw what we did for Seth and Swift Movement. We got together in Cincinnati when actually Seth organized like a get together, like 15 or so people. And that was really fun. And then from there we got started. Okay. So how you signed up with us, because listeners, there's a few ways you can work with us. You could do like remote mentoring sessions. Or if you're really serious, you can fly us out and do like a really highly targeted, like solve my problem type of engagement. And that's what Scotty did. Scotty flew me out. I worked with him for a number of days in person. And then, obviously we worked before that and have been working since that, after that. And what we did was Scotty and I just discussed what was going on with the business. How are you getting your leads? How are you getting your sales? What are your revenue numbers right now? How are your operations looking? And what are your goals? What are you trying to do? And so after seeing everything all laid up, and Scotty, I'll have you kind of create that snapshot of what were those metrics on day one. Yeah. We identified a need for marketing. We identified a need for sales. And then we stopped right there. Because a lot of times it's just fix this one thing. You want to find the constraint in your business that if you open up that constraint, you'll actually see that your business flows a lot more powerfully just by fixing that one pinch point, that one constraint. And that's really the job of a CEO, is finding that constraint and relentlessly opening it, pursuing it. And you just do that over and over. That's your job as a CEO. So Scotty, give me a snapshot of what your leads were, your sales, like just those numbers, revenue, if you're comfortable sharing. Give us that snapshot of what Fate Movement was doing on day one.
Yeah. So looking back, leads wise, we were getting like 7 leads, 4 leads. We had a 15 lead month, but pretty much sub 20, sub 10 on the lead side. So not really much of anything to work with in general. Signups, we had 2 signups. Had a really, really good month at 12 signups. And I remember having that month and being like, yo, this is crazy. If we could do this like once or twice a year, that would be awesome. But other than that, 2 signups, 5 signups, nothing super crazy. And then revenue rise, I'm looking at, $5,000 a month in the early years. And then we got up to around 6,000, 7,000 right up until you kind of started coming in. It was our peak. So that's where we were looking before.
Yeah. And then how about average number of sales? So, you said like 2-ish sales, and at one time you had like 12, and that was epic. And if you just have that once or twice a year, you'd be golden.
Yeah, I was like, dude, we're gonna reach for, if we could get like 10 signups in 1 month, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just, and that month, that 12 was attributed to just like a couple friends bringing in theirs at this time. Again, we were a pretty small community at this point, and not much of a business. It's still awesome, but.
And so when we reviewed those metrics together, and when I had them just reviewing it privately as I was formulating how was I going to help you, I saw that like you, the personality in the gym, that was actually great. You had some coaches, you had a coach that, works well with you. Your gym is sick. And your curriculum is good. Like the parkour side of things, you had pretty well. And your retention, I remember, was also pretty good. So that wasn't the problem. The issue was the low amount of leads and the low amount of sales. And that was it. If you could just open that up, and then more people would get access to your already good parkour curriculum and gym and personalities and everything there, then we're gonna land on something awesome. So that's why our engagement was just focusing on sales and marketing, because that was all there was to be done at that time.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you hired us. We start working together preemptively, and then I show up. Now let's start talking about what are the things that we actually did and launched. So there's like the marketing component. There's the software side, like really getting you started on a CRM. And then there was like the show up and do sales training. Scotty, in what order do you remember those things like happening and taking root?
Yeah. So first was when we kind of originally started to look at the whole thing and realized, well, we need to do something here. And so on the back end, you were kind of setting stuff up, getting some of those systems in place, along with setting up the CRM is kind of what I remember. And we were kind of back and forth because the software that I use already had kind of like a CRM option that was integrated with it. And so you kind of worked with me to figure out, will that work for us, or do we need to go with a different one or that? So you kind of really help personalize it, and looking at the CRM was like, oh, this does have most of the pieces, so we can use this. So we were able to use that was already kind of in my business and just optimize it to work just period. That's so much better. So that was kind of the first thing that I remember is kind of getting that stuff set up, and me not even necessarily understanding exactly how it all worked, but I just remember watching, like, oh, this is getting set up now. Ooh, that's cool. And oh, okay. I can't wait to learn how to use all this. And then after that, I remember that's when you had come in and then kind of train and all that. And that's where all the big stuff kind of started happening.
All right. So I show up. It's day one when almost all of the people who have flown me out kind of do it this way. If there's like a big sales missing and there's a big marketing missing, that is pretty copy and paste throughout the parkour industry at the moment. And so a huge thing we did with you was I walked in your gym and we noticed frankly, the lack of like a sales process. And so we launched something called the Perfect First Day Procedure. You guys still using that at the gym?
We are.
How well is that working?
It is working phenomenally. When my coaches don't do it, it drives me nuts.
So the Perfect First Day Procedure is, to put it quickly, when a client comes in for the first time, that's their first experience. This is their day one first impression of you. So the sales team, which in this case was Scotty, I trained Scotty to be like the chief sales officer in his business. He, and if you have a sales team, they would welcome that person, really get them into their session, understand why they're there, and then walk them out to meet their coach. We actually call the coach over, say, hey, coach, so-and-so, this is your little kid, little Timmy, so that there's a connection there. The coach says some things like, what are they going to do today? How are they going to call them out? When? And then we sit the kid down, and then the coach does call them out by name, says, little Timmy, you're in this like youth level 1 class or whatever you call your class. little Timmy goes out, has an epic class. That part you were doing well. And then after, the perfect first day process continues because the coach doesn't just release the kids and say, all right, kids, go home. The coach actually goes to the new kid in class and says, hey, let's go talk to your parents. And the coach goes and talks with the parents and celebrates what that kid did in class today. Your kid did excellent at this thing. We were impressed because they behaved this way. They achieved this. They expressed confidence. They opened up in class, whatever it is. Get the parent to acknowledge that win for their kid. And then the coach walks the parent and the student up to the front desk, to the sales team, and hand delivers them to the sales team. Says, hey, sales team, in this case, it was Scotty. Hey, Scotty, little Timmy did so good in class today. X, Y, and Z happened. Little Timmy, I'm so excited to see you in class next week, is what the coach says. Coach gives a high five or a fist bump. Coach leaves. Then the salesperson just takes over, asks the parent, what was your favorite moment in class today? So the parent enters that conversation on a high, focusing on the positive note. And then the salesperson, acknowledges that, celebrates that, and then rolls right into a straight line sale. All right, cool. You did this. I recommend this. You want to come this many times a week? Let's do this membership. Let's get you signed up. So that whole connected circuit is the perfect first aid process. And that's before we even talk about how to be a good salesperson. That's just how to give a good first experience so that they don't run out the door. So before we talk about your new sales volume, which is impressive, I'm excited to get to it. In the pipeline of business, marketing always comes first. You got to do marketing to get people to book a class. So let's actually talk about that for a second. What marketing did we launch? How did me and you work together on it? And then what was the result? How many leads are you getting nowadays?
Yeah, even before hopping into that, I'd like to make one note on the perfect first day policy because, we talk a lot about with kids and that sort of thing. And we also have quite a few adults in our program and we run the exact same thing, almost identical with an adult. And that also works wonders because I just see the difference in someone walking in the door, how much lower their anxiety is overall through that experience, all the way up to the front desk. The coach still, after class, great job. Let me take you up to what was your favorite part, walks up to the front desk and still does that handoff. And same thing, can't wait to see you next week. So I just want to preface that, as a program that has quite a few adults in our program and consistently signs up some adults, all those things are still applying to a more adult community. And also work wonders for the children as well.
And I'd like to use the word anxiety because you may remember from our sales training, I use the word anxiety a lot in my sales training because a huge part of sales, and we'll get to this in a second, is managing their anxieties because they need to feel comfortable. If they're in fight or flight, they're not buying anything. So just between you and you, Scotty, but you can still, that you remembered that. So nice stuff.
Awesome. But yeah, going into the marketing side, what had been huge, because again, we didn't have any leads flowing in, is we looked at it because I wasn't running any sort of paid advertisement, any sort of paid ads. I was like, the magic business card will get me all my leads, which it did not. So you were like, okay, let's get a Facebook ad set up and rolling. So I remember it was the night we came back and you were like, do you have some footage that you can slap together of kids? Because we're going to want to target some kids to get some more kids in your gym in general. At the time we were trying to grow my kids program. And I was like, I think I have a couple clips here and there. So I went up to my computer and slapped that together in, a couple hours. And then the next day we set it up for a Facebook ad, and, the ad went well. And on the low end of ad budgeting, I think we were at first $10 a day, I want to say, is where I started that ad app. And then have increased it to $20 a day at a little bit later. But that then started giving us 28 leads, 60 leads, 70 leads, 50 leads, and that's still pumping out leads. It's still the same ad. I haven't even had to change it yet. So
Oh, really? That's actually sick.
So yeah, that's where we've been at with the Facebook ad. Pretty low spend, high, which also just shows how kind of the market that we're able to tap into here, which is awesome.
It wasn't that much work. We put some video together, and then we built the ad together. I was like right next to you at the computer. We talked about here's how you do the targeting. Here's a crash course in copywriting for ads. On that note, did you just see the email that we sent out, the hooks for Parkour Gym copywriting?
I think I did. I haven't fully opened it yet, but I've used some of your copyright in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're ready to,
or you sent some too in the members only Discord. I think you sent some ads that have done really well for you guys as well. Not necessarily just the ad copies, but yeah.
Yes. Totally. Okay. So if you're in our business accelerator program, our mentorship program, you do have access to like the secret area in our Discord. And I totally share stuff like here are our top performing ads in there. Anyway, and publicly on motionmentor.org's blog, a couple articles ago, we put out a whole article about like, here are a ton of hooks for both copywriting and for video ad like voiceover that you can use in your next, parkour gym creative. And it also gives you training. So if you're not a parkour gym, you just convert the literal thing I say and you use the training to convert it into your industry or your subject of the parkour industry. Okay. So when you're ready for a new ad, Scotty, check that out. Or of course you're in our mentor program, so you can just retry it out to me and we'll build one together. And since working with you, we have Kyle Mendoza, our video brand partner. And there's been a few other gyms that have signed up since you came through. And with them, no longer do I be like, okay, put some videos together and we'll make it work. Now it's as easy as put some videos in a Google Drive folder and Kyle's going to whip it together into something really good. So that's in the future for everyone else. Okay. So we launched that. It did well. And now you're at, 7-ish lease under month to 7D, 10x in your leads. That's sick, dude. Nice job.
Yeah, that was awesome. And that was paired with, we also set up a blog on our website. We set up Linktree, so that way on our social medias, posted some on YouTube with ad copies, worked on some SEO stuff. But by far the biggest impact was that Facebook ad that we kind of set up and ran. And it was just like, oh, that's where people come from.
Yeah, that's awesome. And especially you said earlier that just having your Facebook ad, you're able to capture a highly unsaturated market. So many people were just like, oh, thank God there's a parkour gym here. And they flock to you. And having even the bare basics of SEO, search engine optimization, up on your site, which frankly looks like having a blog and posting a bare minimum amount of articles, changing your website a little bit so that Google can actually like crawl it and understand what to serve people on search results. And then you mentioned the social media funnel. Another thing we did with you was, so on Instagram, for example, in that link in your bio, instead of that going to nowhere, potentially, as a lot of people's does, or it goes to just like the homepage on a website, now yours goes to like a menu of like, if you're new and want to visit our gym, click here. If you're here for summer camps, click here. If you're here for birthday parties, click here. So it's a literal landing page at the top of your social media funnel. And that is unique to a other call to action where maybe in an email you send people only to a landing page. The social media funnel is unique because you actually don't know why someone is clicking. They might be there because they're looking for a birthday party venue. So giving them like a social media specific landing page, we've noticed can really help improve throughput through all those different little tiny funnels in your business. Okay, just throwing that out there for the listener there. Okay, so we're up to 70 leads. And now let's tell us how many sales that began translating to, and then we'll come around to the actual sales training of how do we pull that off. So your sales were at what, 2 to at the very high end 12, let's call it like 5.
Which was 12 was an outlier. Yeah. 2, 6, 5. Those were where we were at before. So we then, after going to sales training, had 7. So we came off of basically sales training and went from 2 signups to 7 signups, then to 13 signups, then to 6 signups, then to 11 signups. So consistently floating around that 10 mark, which I was like, I want to be able to do this like at least a couple times a year. Now we're doing it pretty much every month. But the real awesome thing was the conversion rate overall with the scheduled trials. We held for 2 months straight over like 20 trials, a 100% trial conversion. So we signed up 20 people in a row.
That's sweet. Okay. So there's a lot that goes into that. So you're getting a ton of leads, and it starts with your CRM. And Scotty, you did have your software, gym software had like a CRM baked into it. And we discovered that was workable. We didn't need to change it. And listener, if you don't have a CRM, you're not sure where to start, Motion Mentors actually has our own branded CRM that is already customized for parkour gyms. So we have automations, we have workflows. When someone joins in, you can program emails and SMS to go out to them automatically. We had that when you were with us, Scotty, but the thing you had was fine. So I don't even think I pitched this to you, did I?
I think you mentioned it, but it was like, I was like, let's look at it. And you poked around and were like, yeah, this does pretty much all of it. And since you already have it, let's just run with this.
Cool. Yeah. Because my goal is I just want to get you successful. I don't need everyone to like, be on my little thing, Anyway, so we have a CRM if you guys need that. But Scotty, you had the CRM. So all the incoming leads, you saw them show up in your pipeline as a new lead. And then sales training component number 1 is how do you actually call these people? And so we discovered how many times you call them, and contacting them is not calling them once. Contacting them is actually emailing them and texting them and calling them multiple days in a row, every day in a row, until they answer or until they say, "Dear God, stop calling.
Leave me alone."
Yeah.
You did contact us first.
Yeah. They're going to your website, they're finding your ad, and they're giving you their information. So the ball is in your court. And really it's directly correlated. The more outbound outreach attempts you make, the more bookings you get. A direct correlation. And you really took that on. And you were the person making those calls. We trained on what specifically do you say on call number 1, on call number 2, etc. When they actually answer, we trained specifically what is the script. How do we make it as short as possible and get right to the point of, okay, let's get you signed up as fast as possible. And you were a great student. I'll just compliment you here. You made it easy on me. You ate it up really quick. Okay, so that started working. You started making calls, getting bookings. And then when they are in person, you guys did that perfect first day procedure that we talked about in the past. And then it goes right into the perfect pitch, which is a whole nother component of my sales training. And actually, let me ask you, Scotty, what are some things that you remember and that really stood out and made a difference for you in that whole training?
Yeah, the biggest ones that have made the largest impacts is overall just the objection handling that we went through. Because I remember, especially the first few sales that I made right after, or the first few pitches I made like right after you had left, that moment where like they gave me an objection and I was like almost ready to be like, yeah, no, I totally understand. That's fine. I'll give you a call later. Whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute. I know what to say now. And so I actually was able to overcome that objection and then did get the sale and the sign up. So that was like a really cool internal moment where like they walk out the door and I'm like, yes, I'm like, yes. Just kind of a really fun, like, okay, this works. And like, I totally just like learned something and applied it and now it's working. So that was huge. And then some of those objection overcomes that really helped was we added registration fees, a $60 setup fee and a $60 annual registration fee. So it was $120 and we will waive that on the first day sign up. So that helped a ton. I've sold a ton of people on that because they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, we do have this day 1 sign up deal just because you're excited about it and we're excited about having you here. So it's kind of our favor to you and we'll totally waive that for you. And they're like, oh, okay, well then, yeah. And then the 7-day money back guarantee is another huge one that I've sold tons and tons and tons of memberships on. So yeah, like those are like the three, obviously just the objection overcoming in general, and those two that like really just made levels in our signups.
Oh, love that. Okay. An objection, if you're unfamiliar, is basically anytime someone says no and a reason. So you say, okay, here's what I recommend. You want to sign up? And they say no, because I'm scared to sign up, whatever it is. And so an objection overcome is you're just equipped with what to do next. And so you acknowledge what they said, you empathize with it, like, oh, totally got it. You're afraid to commit to something new. I can see how that would be scary. We just met, you're unsure about parkour. And then you go to speak with authority. Here is where, you might bust out your 7-day money back guarantee. You could say, given that your kid really liked it today, and I think that this is going to be huge for him, knowing that you're a little, scared, I'll use your own words about signing up. Let me offer you that we have a 7-day money back guarantee. In the next 7 days, you guys hate it for whatever reason, I'll just give you your money back. No questions asked, right to your bank account. That way you have some time to experience us, get to know us. You can see your kid thriving in class again. And then from there, and then you close the sale. And then you say, all right, so with that, sound fair? Let's get you signed up. And then they do. And so that's just an objection. There's a lot of different kinds of objections. There could be, I need to talk to my spouse. There could be, we're playing another sport, so we don't have time. This is too expensive, or I don't see the value, or a myriad of other different objections. And so what we did with Scotty was we isolated I actually break it into 4 major categories. There are 4 major categories of very common objections at a parkour gym. And we talk about, here is exactly what you say if they say this. And then we're going to practice. I'm going to pretend to be the client. You're the salesperson. And then we do. And Scotty, you're saying that having learned that, and it seems like you memorized it and you were able to like integrate it as truth,
Yeah.
So then when someone came and they gave you an objection, you just did the thing that we practiced and it worked. Ain't that crazy?
It is crazy, man. Yeah. And the way you had framed it to me was huge as well. Like, because I'm not a super, or was not a super salesy person before. And like, using sales tax and stuff like that. But once, I kind of understood because I'm super passionate about parkour and the spirit of it and the impact that it has on people's lives. And so once it was kind of framing me as because I know once they're in my program that it's going to do levels for their life and for the family, the whole 9 yards. And if my inability to sell a membership and overcome and make them feel comfortable saying yes and becoming a part of my program, if that's my fault because I'm just not equipped with the skills to make that sale, then it's on me for not giving this person the benefits of parkour that we've all like come to know and love. So when it was kind of pitched to me and when, you'd talk me through it like that, I was like, damn, I got to get good at sales so that way I can, truly have this lasting impact on people's lives. Because if I make them feel uncomfortable because, I said the wrong thing or I didn't do it right, or they're just like, oh yeah, I got to go talk to my spouse over it. And, then they forget about it. Like that was my fault for not, being able to overcome that and walk them through the process to be like, hey, let me like change your life through parkour. So that is what resonated with me. And now I'm like, I'm a salesperson because that means that I'm selling, my passion and the thing I love and changing people's lives to that. It's not a car salesman,
Oh, so good, Scotty. Yeah. When you're passionate, sales is no longer car sales.
Yeah.
Sales becomes a transference of authentic belief. If you love your parkour program, you love the sport of parkour and the impact it had on you and on your life.
Yeah.
That parent standing in your gym, they don't have that context. They just totally don't know. Today might be their first day that they've ever seen parkour. So in your position, you are now in charge of transferring your belief and your conviction and your passion to them in a minimum quantity sufficient as to get them to take a chance and to get them to say, okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
And that is sales. Oh, that's a dirty word, sales. If you just remove that and you are the transference of belief and passion, oh, that feels way better. And in our industry, that is what we're doing. Parkour thrives or dies on whether or not we can improve other people's lives. Because at the end of the day, if parkour just inherently ruined people's lives, we wouldn't do it, right? And no one would sign up for it. But it's working, and we have so much passion because it improved our lives. My businesses, and now your Scotty businesses, your gym is doing so well because you're transferring that belief and that passion into these kids and into those adults. And now they have a personal relationship with parkour, and parkour is now their sport.
Yeah.
And that is so cool. And that starts with marketing and then sales. That's so cool.
Yeah. And just kind of an example of that, we talk about the 7-day money back guarantee and the sign up feels. It can feel really like, car salesy. But like when when I'm talking about the 7-day money back guarantee and people are like, oh, I just really need to talk to my spouse because we make these decisions together and that sort of thing. And then I'm able to come out. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, we do have a 7-day money back guarantee, and you can keep your savings and sign up today, which saves you that $120. And you still can go home and talk to your spouse for 6 days, 6 entire whole days. You guys can go over it together, really decide if parkour is right for you. You can even come to class 1 or 2 more times, try it out. And like, 'cause I want to make sure that this program is exactly what you guys want. And so like giving them that security and having them feel that and they just feel so much safer because they are safer. They're here and they're here in our program, and like, we're here to help you and change your life. And we're not here to just like take your one-time payment and be like, oh yeah, we don't refund you and you can't ever get back. And they really feel that when we talk like that, and because that's our intention. It's not just to steal it real fast. So yeah, it's huge.
Okay. So we got you, better marketing, we got you better sales, and you started performing more leads, more sales coming in. Your leads basically got a 10x. Your sales went from 5-ish on average a month and you had a stretch goal of getting to 10. Your goal was to get 5 on average, but now you are getting 10 every month on average. Some months like up into the 16s and beyond. So a doubling of your sales. So let's talk about your revenue. If you were doing, 5, 6, 7,000 a month before starting with us, how is it looking now?
Yeah. So we were doing 5, 6, 7 a month before. Now we're upwards of like 14, consistently above 12. And that's our overall revenue. One of the bigger impacts we had was we standardized our memberships, and increased our drop-in rate, because we had especially a lot of adults that were doing drop-ins, which was a very inconsistent piece about our revenue in general. So we got most of our student base onto our membership now. So our reoccurring predictable revenue became much, much more predictable. So again, that was at like 4, 5, and now we're like 8, 9. So basically doubled that and got all that on the same like reoccurring playing field, which was also a huge impact for, looking forward and planning and doing that sort of stuff. Because it wasn't like, well, we have this amount of drop in revenue this month or this much. So that was huge on the revenue end. That just made it more consistent along with increasing our revenue too.
So good. Okay. So we had a doubling in revenue.
Yeah.
And that doubling was consistent. So at this point, have you earned back the money that you paid into this mentorship program?
Yeah, definitely. And we've continued to reinvest and do that. But if I would have been like, okay, boom, and taken it back, we would have packed our bank account full with the money that we used on you guys. Definitely worth it.
Oh, so good.
3 times over.
Another thing we kind of jumped over was we increased your pricing like very soon into the process. And a lot of times increasing your price is almost always the number one way to improve your revenue. You can improve your sales throughput, you can improve your retention, which might have like a doubling on your business, or at least on your throughput, but improving your pricing can have like a multiplicative effect on your business for kind of no additional operational complexity, no additional, not much. It just kind of drops to the bottom line. Scotty, when I started with you guys, you were at $90 for a once a week. And then I recommended a 30% increase up to $130. And frankly, like I'm going to recommend that you increase it again soon, but
Well,
I didn't want you to go from like 90 to, way too much, because then people just get like shock.
yeah. And we also are mostly push our twice a week because I think that's the way we can make the most impact. So we had that once a week option, but I was almost like scared of it. Like when someone was on our once a week, I was like, oh, it doesn't feel as good because it wasn't fully worth that. But now that we've raised our once a week, especially, I'm like, okay, I don't like dislike our once a weekers in a sense. I love our once a weekers, but it worked much easier for me. They're much more worth it, and it feels better on the business end. And I still try to like, oh, twice a week, and we can win the world.
Yeah. So when I proposed that you raise prices by 30%, emotionally, how did that feel for you?
It was a little nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it had happened in the past and worked and made a massive impact on our business that, way back that first out of retreat. So I trusted it as well. And knowing that it happened in other gyms and worked gave me a lot of confidence. But yeah, it was one of those that I was like, okay, we're going to do this. I know we need to do this. But is this going to work as well as it's supposed to work? It did.
Yeah. And it did.
It did.
Cool. And you always have the small amount of people who cancel. And Scotty, you totally had like a few people who canceled, yeah?
We didn't have anyone cancel. Actually, we had no one cancel to By Some Grace.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well,
only the program was worth it.
The normal average you would expect, I don't know, like 10% to cancel, some amount to cancel. But if you're increasing your prices by, in this case, 30%, but that 30% is over your entire membership base, you grow way more in revenue than the amount of people who leave. So it's like, I don't want to say always worth it, but it's like 99% of the time worth it. And that 1% of the time, actually 98% of the time, because 1% of the time you're already charging enough and you don't need to do that. And that's extremely rare. The other percent of the time is that your business isn't ready for a price increase because it is garbage. And the parkour industry has the benefit of a lot of us are actually doing a great job with the parkour coaching and the design and the curriculum and all that. So we don't suffer from like garbage businesses on average. We suffer from undervaluing our businesses. So a lot of us, almost all of us, are ready to actually jump to the next pricing tier or two and leapfrog ahead. And in your case, Scotty, that was extremely validated by your clients. No one canceled because they were already getting such a high value thing. You might have even had people who were like, oh man, it's about time. I'm surprised you were so cheap.
We actually did have a few people say that to us, especially the people that were on our once a week. They're like, oh yeah, we're just so great to hear you guys are doing well. And that was around the time, with the price increase, we were adding some gym improvements. We redesigned the front office space, and, we literally went to, it was Staples to get a new front desk to make the whole experience feel more professional and better overall for the sales and for just that first walk-in experience. So that was another thing we did when you were here. You're like, hey, this can feel better. And I was like, all right, let's go to Staples. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. I walk in there, I was like, what is this front desk? No,
we need a different one. Yeah.
All good. You're not the only gym that the exact same thing has happened to. Okay. So yeah, so the listeners can see that we had a 10x in leads, a doubling in an average amount of, or more than doubling in average amount of sales every month, a doubling of revenue, which has been consistent since. The results have more than paid for the mentorship, that initial mentorship since then. And Scotty, you have since enrolled into our monthly mentoring program. So now you have access to Christopher Hollingsworth, and I believe he's helped you with creating some different job descriptions, getting your business ready for that next level of scale. You have access to our different courses and curriculum. So if you were to raise an issue of like, oh no, I'm having XYZ problem, a lot of times we already have a course for it. So we just give it to you when you're ready for it. And then of course, when you have an issue, you just text us and we jump in there with you. Okay. So A note that I took here was that you had sort of an other tertiary thing that you said was your favorite thing you got from the program. And it was that you were able to leapfrog ahead and experience so many years. What did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, and this, again, by far the thing that, I said I'd do it 3x over. The reason I do it 3x over is because it just let me skip so much trial and error. Years of trial and error, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, going through the pain. How do I do sales? How do I make the gym more professional? What do I need to change? How do we get more leads in the door? Like, it just helped me skip years of trial and error. So I think we're 3 to 5 years. Again, when we started with Jimmy, we were basically a year into the indoor space. So maybe a little bit more than a year in the indoor space. So basically a brand new gym at this point. Which is also why I was a little nervous, because I was like, I don't know, is it going to be worth all that money to do? But I was like, you know what? I think, gaining this insight will really make a difference. And oh my gosh, it did. I mean, talk about like where our numbers are now and like our conversions and all those things, that normally would be 3 to 5 years down the line. And I know that from talking to other gyms that have been open for 5, 7, 10 years and are like still trying to figure out how to do some of these things. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, we went over that, or we talked about that, or that sort of thing. Creating the systems, the CRM and all that was like so business changing. It let me start paying myself a wage that was able to survive off of. So I'm like full time with the gym and comfortable now. So that was huge. But that's what anyway, that I mean, just the experience that was transferred. I know you've gone through years and years and years of trial and error. Thank you for that, by the way. It's very much appreciated. But helped us skip that and get on an even playing field to like start just growing the parkour industry as a whole more and more.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one objection that we get a lot, Scotty, is entrepreneurs, particularly inexperienced / young, like 20 something entrepreneurs, just have a hard time paying any amount of money for coaching or for mentoring.
Right.
And you sort of just jumped right in, and you actually purchased like one of our highest ticket things. It's also the most like hands-on, high value things. And you're saying that it was super duper worth it for you. But if you were talking to another parkour business owner, maybe a parkour gym owner, so it's the same, and they were just like, I don't feel comfortable paying even like $500, even to go to the 3-day Parkour IndyCon business conference, the in-person 3-day thing. That's not even feels worth it to them, let alone like the multi-thousand package that you bought. Like, yeah, what do you say to them to help shift their mindset based on your experience?
Yeah. So again, as a much newer, fresher business, as I said, our business would have closed if I didn't go to Art of Retreat the first time and increased our prices. So just from that trip alone, talking and getting other people's experience, learning from their mistakes is why we're even still here in the first place. So I know that gaining and learning from other people's mistakes and experiences and reaching out for that help is so invaluable. And as someone that like just loves hearing and learning from other people, the fact that these resources are available, there's just no reason to not take advantage of it. Because I mean, other businesses in this world have gone through business mentorships, and there's mentorship options and stuff like that. But the fact that there's one specific to the parkour industry is just like, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. And the value that you get out of just strengthening your pure foundations lets you grow. I mean, as parkour athletes, we know how important your basics are. So if you can like just jumpstart that and get really, really, really strong foundations and basics in a couple months, instead of like, as we know, as parkour athletes working on those for years and years and years, like think about if you just started your parkour journey with all of that experience in like a month, and then where you'd be now as an athlete. That's the same thing with your business. If you just strengthen your foundations that quickly using other people's help and experience, how much money were you going to spend learning along the way over the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, it's a no-brainer. How much money do people spend to go to college to get a piece of paper, And it's just like, yeah. So as a new business, I was a little skeptical at first because we were like new and fresh, and I'd seen motion mentors go into like more established businesses with higher member counts and that sort of thing, and just like flip it and, you know, increase revenue and increase membership pricing, which just like immediately like flips the business. So for a newer business, I was like, will this give as much of an impact? And it totally did, because it just built those foundations that we get to just like rely on forever. I mean, and that's just awesome. That's worth any amount of money.
That's great, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, I mean, that's basically it. That was the deep dive into what happened. Where were you? Where are you now? So my closing question for you is, you as the CEO of Fate Movement, what do you think your constraint is right now? And what are you focusing on in your business?
Yeah. What I'm focusing on now is, especially with our sign-up rate overall increasing, we've been looking at our churn rate and overall strengthening our length of engagement. Because our sign-up rate has been so awesome and so high, we've wanted to really zone in on making sure that like first like month or so experience is really solid, because we did see a few, you know, after like a month or so drops happen, and those were people that like didn't quite make it into the gym as much, that sort of thing. So recently we've gone through and done like an entire new onboarding experience and strengthened all those pieces, just so that way we're providing the best value to our students that we can. And obviously you've helped us plenty with that as well. So we just kind of went through that and do that, and kind of my next thing is overall just strengthening we just did job descriptions and are standardizing our staffing, and we just hired 2 more coaches. So working on onboarding them and pushing them to be, you know, phenomenal instructors to convey tons and tons of value to our program. And then on the CEO side and the business end, strengthening our metrics and our tracking, so that way we can really get a clear picture of everything that's going on within the business. Those are the exact things that I'm focused on right now.
Solid. Did you take the business metrics course?
I did. And it also is what I'm playing off of in order to go through all the metrics stuff. Like I'm like, oh, I need that one. I need to track that one.
Nice. All right, Scotty, thank you so much for your time. I'm so stoked to hear that you've had an epic experience and you're continuing to grow your business, and that you've just catapulted yourself multiple years into your future with all this. Thank you for placing your trust in us, and I'm excited to keep watching you guys grow. Thank you so much for being on the call.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's been awesome.
All right. See you later, Scotty.
See you, dude.
Parkour business owners, that was Scotty Lytle from Fate Movement in Indianapolis, Indiana. And if you want to improve your sales, your marketing, your ability to collect data, create a team, write job descriptions, scale your business, improve your profits, whatever it is, go to motionmentors.org. You can head to our blog for a whole bunch of free resources so that you can start getting results and getting revenue way ahead of you actually ever even getting on the phone with us. Ideally, we can pay for ourselves before we even get to that point, you know? So there's a ton of free resource and stuff on the blog, on the podcast that you're listening to now. And when you're ready to book your call, go to motionmentors.org, book that call button, and we'd be happy to jump right in there with you. Okay, until next time, thank you, parkour industry. See you later.